Welcome to another episode of Out of the Pods. I'm Deep Tea.
And I'm Natalie. And we're back. We're back starting the week with you guys. We are so excited, our pod besties.
Back again to Monday.
Is that a song?
I mean, it's like Slim Shady with a remix of Deeps.
Okay, well, maybe we should change our intros to that.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Well, hopefully you guys caught up on the first drop of episodes of Love is Blind Season 7. I have so many thoughts on the season, like we always do for every season, but it's an interesting one.
I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time watching it, but it's crazy how when there's 6 episodes and they're all an hour plus long.
So long.
I was like, it's not even like 40-minute episodes. Like, and your thoughts change the entire time.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let me go back and erase this. I no longer applies.
I'm the most judgmental after episode 1 and also after episode 6.
Yeah, and also the character arcs. Like somebody that I loved at the very beginning, I'm like, ooh, I've seen too much.
Yeah,
I take it back.
Someone that I just didn't pay attention to in the pod episodes. They go to Mexico and I'm like, I want to know more about this couple. But I was not on the edge of my seat like you were for these first 6 episodes. I don't know. It's just not hitting for me.
Dude, this season was so entertaining. Like it was giving.
Are we watching the same show right now?
I don't know. You know what? The way we watched it must have been different because usually I'm always like scrolling on my phone while I'm watching episodes or like kind of doing other things. I went to go charge my phone yesterday and I didn't pick it up until episode 3. And I was like, oh, I haven't even touched my phone. I was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, I don't know. It was very entertaining and so much drama. Like I was like, I can't look away from this train wreck.
Wow. We definitely have very different opinions. I cannot wait to get into it because I want to understand why you think the way you do. So I'm very excited to recap these first 6 episodes. Before we get into that, I need to give an update for you guys because it just made me think about Love is Blind and why you and I did the experiment in the first place. So I went on a date last week and it was with someone I met at a friend's wedding. And he's really great. He was really, really great. I was texting Deep D about him and I was like, okay, like when I first met him at the wedding, he was so nice, like good looking, very normal. We love normal men.
We love and he had potential. He had lots of potential.
He was a potential man. I felt like him and I were very similar in terms of our sense of humor. So the date was going well. At one point during the date, I showed him an old photo of me, a photo that my friend whose wedding we met at took of me, and it was a really funny photo. It was like a photo from like 10, actually almost 14 years ago. And I show him it and he goes, oh my gosh, that was worse than I could imagine. And
the audacity.
And it's a funny photo. I have like goggles on in the photo. I used to wear goggles when I chopped onions because my eyes get really watery and like I tear up a lot. And he starts making comments and I realize he's talking about my weight because I was 20 pounds heavier in that photo. And he says like, if you looked like that version of that, like, and I saw you on this date, I would have like ran the other way. He goes, there's no way you got any men when you looked like that. He goes, when did you do your glow up? I have a very dry sense of humor and I was poking fun at him during the date, but it was very mutual. And at first, like the first 2 comments, I was like, maybe it's his like dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
So I was like, whatever.
Which we love, which you love specifically.
Which I love. Like,
yeah.
I do love that, like kind of like that meanness. Like I find that funny, but you know,
listen, if the pod besties have watched season 2, they know.
You know. But it was very clear he was making comments about my weight and he kept going like for a good like probably 5-10 minutes and I stopped smiling and joking back and I was almost like kind of get the hint like
yeah, like read the room.
But it took me back about how like you could really hit it off with someone and have such great chemistry. And when he said like, if you looked like that, 20 pounds heavier, I would have ran the other way. It went back to show like how superficial the world is. I've grown up though the last 14 years, but you know, I'm still the same person I was in that photo. I don't know. It's just sad that if I was 20 pounds heavier, what he was saying is like, he wouldn't have even like considered me as an option.
Yeah, which is very unfortunate. And it kind of shows you that can't be your life partner because
absolutely
our
not.
bodies change over time constantly. Like if we get pregnant, like things happen,
100%.
Our weight shifts, like everything anything is not set in stone. Like that's called living life. And the fact that he commented on that, I'm actually kind of happy that he did because you vetted him right away and you're like, thank the Lord you did not waste any time and you showed that picture because had you not, like, what if you were still wasting your time and like, you know, are very into him?
I know. I'm so glad because for me, I was like, you don't have the self-awareness right now to realize what you're saying is so wrong.
Which is a bigger problem.
Yeah. And I was like, the fact you thought that was even okay to say is crazy. And it was very clear he was talking about my weight. It wasn't because the photo was a funny photo of me in goggles. And you're totally right. I think I made the joke back and I was like, don't think you won't see that version again. Like, I was like,
good for you.
Like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's still me. Like, those comments you're making about that girl in that photo is me. But anyways, I ended up telling him like I didn't feel a romantic spark. I didn't give him the feedback, but I told my friend about it, our mutual friend, and she's like, oh, I'm going to rip him a new one. Like, don't you worry.
Which I'm actually very happy that she's doing that because at first when you're like, oh, she's going to tell him, I was like, ooh, that's going to hurt a little. But you're totally right. Like, he needs to have the feedback to understand that
you can't say that to someone.
Yeah, like, or like it's okay to joke. You love joking around with people and having that dry sense of humor, but you just can't let it like get to the point where you're impacting someone's like
you cannot be commenting on another woman's weight.
Never.
Or their body type.
Period.
I'm sorry. You cannot be saying it to them in such a hurtful way. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And so it's like the fact he doesn't have the awareness that wasn't okay to do says a lot. And I, you know, when my friend was like, I'm gonna tell him and give him the feedback, I feel like typically I would say, oh, just don't do it, let it go. But I was like, in this case, I was like, yeah, like, because he should know never to ever say that to someone else again.
Yeah, because he lost out on someone amazing, and now look at him. He's gonna be like, oh my gosh, how did I go? Where did I go so wrong? You know, truly.
Yeah. So, anyways, but it made me think about Love Is Blind and the whole experiment and how, as much as you want to take the physical aspect out of dating, it still matters so much. We've heard that even in our interview with Brett Brown from Love Is Blind season 4, who got married to Tiffany. Lovely, amazing people. But he even said, like, I loved her in the pods, but if the physical aspect wasn't there during their reveal, you know, he said it could have gone very differently. So it does matter.
It absolutely matters.
And that's the world we live in.
And I think that's why we always say on this podcast that, you know, it's always asked, is love blind? And it's like, no, it can be if you're very lucky. But also this experiment goes through stages. Yeah. And one of the stages is the pods, like you build that emotional connection. But I would say like one of the more important ones is the physical connection because 100%. Mannerisms. And we'll dive deep into this coming up because I have so much to talk about when it comes to all of this.
Yeah,
like
100%. That's why I feel like the reveal, you definitely know by the way someone acts, like if they're going to make it or not.
I agree.
But
you can see the chemistry on screen. Like it shines through so much for some couples and others not so much. Okay, before we get into this season's recap, there's a lot going on in the Love Is Blind universe world, I feel like. Well, when is it not? But there's a TikTok floating around where Ollie and AD have been spotted together in Mexico. And so there's rumors going around that it is a perfect match. Season 3 is filming. And so that's why they probably have like, you know, coupled up on the season. Can you imagine Ollie from Love Is Blind UK and AD from season 6 together?
I mean, what a crossover. That makes sense. I did hear about who's on the Perfect Match season 3 cast, and I can pretty much confirm that both of them are on it. So it probably is true that they matched up on the show, and I know it recently finished filming, and they're probably, you know, on their little post-show couples trip or whatever. So very interesting that they ended up together. I think AD is amazing. She got such a great edit on season 6. And I'm really surprised that she matched up with Ollie. And you know what's interesting is, wasn't he just in a situationship with Charlotte from this season?
I heard that didn't work out, obviously.
But here's the thing. It's like they cast like at least a month out before they go on the show. Mm-hmm. So he must have been going through the casting process when he was in this situationship with Charlotte.
Oh, absolutely. If I think back to the timeline of when production asked us to go on Perfect Match, I remember like I was still talking to Kyle, and like that whole like there's months and months of planning beforehand. So I would love to know what the timeline was on Charlotte, because the reunion basically just happened and they were together, and now so I don't know like how old this TikTok is, and
it's
what's
recent
happening.
Like it has to as of last week,
right? So it interesting.
So I don't know. That's what you know what luck.
Listen, you can find love.
Hopefully they work out, and it is a really good relationship. We obviously don't know anything. Like,
I would say AD deserves better, but that's just me.
Same. But we'll have to see what Ollie's edit is on Perfect Match season 3. Like, did he change? But it just feels weird that he is being coy about the situationship with Charlotte, knowing that he maybe was casting for Perfect Match season 3. It's a little bit messy.
I don't know. I feel like change is very hard, and you can't really change in this small amount of time. Change takes a lot of time. So I have no hope for that.
Wow. Deep, you said it.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, it takes time,
Well, speaking about breakups in the Love is Blind universe, Marshall from Love is Blind season 4 announced via People magazine that him and his fiance Shay, well, ex-fiance at this point, ended their engagement. So if you guys don't know who Shay is, it's Marshall's now ex-fiance that he introduced in season 4's After the Altar. I guess they called it quits less than a year after they got engaged.
I heard some rumors about this actually when it was going on, and I went back and like creeped on their Instagram profiles.
Of course.
Well, I just wanted to see.
No, I did the same exact thing.
People wipe pictures
and
as soon as they broke. Yeah, but she didn't. She still had their engagement pinned. So I was like, like what's going on? But yeah, again.
So what he said exclusively to People, he said, ultimately, we came to the realization that we are in 2 different places in life right now.
Makes sense. That was
That's
very
a good
PR
reason.
answer.
Yeah, that's a good reason to end an engagement for sure.
Wow.
Well, I wonder if he'll be on Perfect Match season 4.
No way.
I don't know. You never know.
That's a long shot. I feel like as the seasons are airing, they're like, the ones from previous seasons are kind of like, it's really mean to say discarded, but like kind of forgotten. Because they want like fresh new energy, I feel like. But who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? No, I totally get that. But
yeah. Interesting.
I know.
Well, all I have to say is there's going to be so much more that comes out from this season, I feel like. But anyways, let's get into our recap of season 7. We are in Washington, D.C., folks.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, give me some of your general thoughts. Like, what did you think about the season?
Was my theory correct? That the fall season is less interesting than the spring seasons? Because I feel like I'm comparing season 7 to season 6, and season 6 was just had everything you wanted. and this just is not hitting for me, and I think it's just because I'm playing the comparison game. I will say I definitely like more characters on this season than I did previous seasons. They're not as memorable or iconic as season 6 or even like season 4.
I don't know.
Which were spring seasons.
I feel like I need more data before I can say yes to this theory
true.
or not.
That's
because in my opinion, this season was actually giving me so much entertainment. It really was. Like, obviously there's some couples where I'm like, okay, you guys are not problematic whatsoever. Like, you're cute, like you're amazing. But the couples that were problematic were so entertaining.
Okay.
So entertaining.
I know you're talking about Leo and Brittany and probably Hannah and Nick. But I thought the same thing. Like, Leo and Brittany, when they were in these pod episodes, I was like, I mean, they're
just unique.
Very unique, very memorable characters. But the fact they weren't even followed afterward.
Which is a huge producer mistake, in my opinion.
100%.
Why were they not followed? Because that was a train wreck I really needed to watch. Because after that review, and we'll get into it, but holy crap. Like, I just was like, that was a big mistake. Big mistake.
The biggest mistake. But I feel like their storyline had to end there because, like, I think us as viewers, we knew they were not going to make it.
Yeah.
You know, it was like so predictable. Hannah obviously likes bigger men. And I feel like if she saw Leo, who has the same stature as Nick D, I feel like there was going to be no like love triangle there anymore.
Yeah, but it would have just been interesting to see what the reactions would have been. Like, I totally get it. Every single couple has their own film crew and producers. So it is a lot of money to follow each couple. So I kind of understand why they didn't move forward. Yeah. But in Mexico, I feel like it would have been very entertaining to watch it, like during the couple meetup. And I'm sure maybe we'll see it even further when we go back to DC. But anyways, in general, though, I have to say I like this season so far. And
it got juicy on the last episode 6.
Even episode 3 and 4, like there were some points it was lagging, but I was like, oh, this is good. But we did talk about on the last episode like professions. And I kind of do see how DC is a little bit unique in professions.
Yeah,
like
the military service.
Or like I think it was a policy advocates and just like nonprofit organization, like managers. Like they had like interesting, unique professions, I feel like. Very DC of that.
Yeah, I was surprised when people talked about their military service, like how many people, when I say how many, like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Had that experience. And obviously you rarely, actually never see that in Chicago.
Yeah. And what was really unique was they actually introduced political conversational topics in this season.
I know. When Marissa said she has dated Trump supporters before, I was shocked when she said that, not because of what she said, but more so because I feel like politics is never mentioned on the show.
Never. And even Steven talking about who he voted for and why he changed his mind. Like, I was very like just taken aback that they even aired any of that. But it makes sense for DC to have that kind of play into the
I feel like that's what makes it a DC season.
Yes,
because it is the nation's capital. But
a little lesson.
That was very interesting. And I wonder when they talked about politics, they actually thought it would play because it's never been shown before. I remember Shane and I tried to talk about politics because I know we are not politically aligned and we were scared.
Yeah.
Like everyone I tried to talk about politics with, I think it was actually one of the prompts like in our notebooks, like, to keep the conversation going. I remember everyone was very nervous to talk about it. So we just never did.
Yeah.
Until like after we left the pods and like film crew weren't around, like it was never filmed.
Yeah. And even if it was filmed, I don't think they're like, nah.
Yeah.
You have bigger fish to fry, Chicago.
But I remember it was a very like touchy subject in the pods. Like,
I agree.
People were like nervous because obviously we were being filmed.
I really like the DC vibe. I feel like there's a lot of smart people on the cast, which I really appreciated. There's sometimes I like when Taylor said some words, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go see how this applies in this context.
They are not the typical reality TV show personalities. I don't think we are either, nor like many people on the Love is Blind seasons, but they definitely like the couples that they decided to follow. Most of them give me more like mature vibes. They are an older crowd too.
With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society.
Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account.
Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 per month.
The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Anyways, let's get into our first couple who got a lot of screen time in these pods, Hannah and Nick. Well, mostly Hannah did because she was in a little love triangle.
She was in a love triangle and hers was very intense. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, I started off.
Can I just tell you? Because I need you to react to this.
Yes.
One of our pod besties, actually probably hundreds of our pod besties, DM'd us saying that Hannah is this season's Chelsea from Love is Blind season 6. What do you think?
I hate to say that because I do see a lot of similarities, but obviously they're their own individual people. But I do have to say, and I almost called her Chelsea just now, but Hannah is a little bit immature, I think.
Very Gen Z.
Very Gen Z. And her age is showing. Like, she has a lot more life to live, a lot more to learn about relationships and herself. And I got that vibe because both Nick and Chelsea, oh my God, see, I'm going to call her Chelsea now. How dare you? No, both Nick and Hannah used their looks as a crutch. Like, can we please stop using celebrity lookalikes as a conversational topic in the pods? Like, why are we doing that? I think doppelganger talk, celebrity lookalikes, it should be banished from the pods because you're defeating the purpose of the experiment. But let me just tell you, I'm done.
That's it.
We're done.
Deep D confirms, yes, Hannah is this season's Chelsea. I think when we were getting DM'd, like, Hannah is Chelsea from Love is Blind season 6, it's that they're being edited as being insecure.
Right.
For whatever reason.
And that's the key. They're being edited that way.
Yeah. Because I was like, obviously, Deep D and I like to be careful. It's like we are reacting to what Netflix is showing us in the edit, how they edited these people into characters. Yeah. We don't know how they are like in real life. When I met Chelsea from Love is Blind season 6, when we went to the Bahamas together, she is not an insecure person.
Yes.
But she was absolutely edited by Netflix and the production company to be on the show.
And I have to say, I feel like the season was literally filmed a year ago. You grow so much as a human being since that time too. So like you look back on that and you learn from it and you grow from it. So, and I only say this because I saw a TikTok that Hannah posted and she was like in the corner of the room, like standing like this. And she goes, me just watching myself thinking, why'd I do that? Or something like that. And it was just like, she's kind of poking fun at herself, which is fun. But okay, can I tell you initially what I thought was the problem between Hannah and Nick?
Okay.
First of all, Nick is like such a flirtatious man. Like he definitely gives BDE.
If you guys don't know what BDE means, it means big dick energy.
Thank you for saying that. My mom would be upset with me. I'm just kidding. Like he was like very fun, flirtatious, but I was like, oh, you're gonna be problematic. Like you're like that type of personality.
He also gives me insecure vibes. And that's just my assumption because I have known people who act the way he does. Also, I've known people who act like Hannah, and I think I have been there at one point when I've been insecure about my looks. And I see Nick doing that where you kind of put up a front, like you're like this cool guy. You kind of use your ability to be flirty and be a good conversationalist to kind of, I don't know, it's like almost like creating a facade that you are this like cool, smooth, suave person. You may not really be like that in real life.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Both of them set each other up with this like idea of who they might be and what they might look like. Like Hannah saying, oh, I was a cheerleader who dated the quarterback. That puts an idea in your head.
Yeah.
And then Nick being like, yeah, like I wanted to go into professional football. Like I did this. I was the kicker. Like both of them set such high standards.
I agree.
And then they kind of like, as the season went on in the pods, they like backtracked because they felt insecure about this persona that they put up. And that's why they're feeling so uneasy.
I know.
I died when Nick was like, I think that I'm better looking than Travis Kelce. Like, Nick, why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Yeah. And he said he also thinks that he looks similar to Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Who played Superman. And who is very, very good looking. Look, I don't think Nick is bad looking, but he does not look like the man who played Superman in Hollywood.
That's exactly why I think the comparison game needs to stop to celebrities, because you're putting an idea in someone's head. Let your beauty shine for itself. When there's no image, there's nothing to be disappointed about and there's nothing to expect. It's the best tactic.
I always wonder if like Shane expected Sandra Oh to pop out of, those reveal doors, and he was disappointed.
Do you think Shane even knows who Sandra Oh is?
So I remember I was like throwing out a lot of East Asian actresses who I thought were well known. Mm-hmm. And like the men on the other side would be like, don't know her. They only knew Lucy Liu and Sandra Oh at the time when we filmed in 2021.
That's crazy.
And I was like,
you're like, where do I go from here?
Yeah, like where do I go? And I always wondered, like, did I set the standard right?
Yeah.
And probably didn't, but whatever.
No, but you're totally right. In the pods, it's so hard because I feel like a lot of the men and even the women like fish to figure out what people look like and kind of base their choices on that. And I think one of the reasons why Hannah had both connections was because she kind of alluded to the fact that she's this cheerleader and
she's hot. Men think she's hot.
Exactly.
This is where Hannah lost me a little bit. I think I can't connect with her because also she's Gen Z, but she starts off episode 1 saying about how superficial dating can be, or how like superficial men can be. Mm-hmm. Like she says, you can have the best personality in the world, the prettiest face, but if you have a couple of pounds, they're not into you. Mm-hmm. But then she, is talking to Nick at one point, and she talks about how like men just think I'm hot. Like they don't see my personality and things like that. And I don't know. I was like, which one are you struggling with?
Nick is in the same boat. Like he's always talking about appearance. He's like, oh, I can't wait to see what bikinis you're going to be in. I can't wait to, like physically be with you, which is fine. But I think that created like some insecurity for Hannah. And I don't know, man, like this was like such an interesting couple, and it was a gift that kept on giving. Like that reveal. Did you see her persona? Like it completely changed. Like she went from shy girl kind of in the pods to like, oh, like I'm feeling very insecure, to I know I'm better looking than you, Nick. Like that's the vibe I got.
Her whole monologue before and after the reveal was just not good. I'm sure she said a lot more. I feel like she said a lot more, but what the editors left in was that not only was she insecure, but also superficial. I think that's what they want us to think. Yeah. It's the fact that she says like she's not happy with the way he looks because, he said he was 5'11" in the pods, but she's like, I'm pretty sure he's shorter than me and he's not as big as I thought. I go for like jockier, bigger guys. I don't know. For someone who started episode 1, which I loved what you said. Like you could have the prettiest face, the best personality in the world, but you're a couple of pounds heavier and they're not into you. And here she is judging Nick on his body type. It just, I don't know. I felt like she was being very hypocritical.
Absolutely.
I feel like she's harmless, but you're right to what you said about her earlier, where she doesn't know what she wants. And she hasn't gained that like what relationships are supposed to be like and what you really should be looking for. I feel like she wants to talk the good talk, but her mind's just not thinking like that right now.
Exactly. And that is the perfect segue to talking about Leo and her relationship, because I truly thought going through this, like Hannah does not know what she's looking for in a relationship. And that is so clear by the way she was bouncing back and forth between Nick and Leo. And first of all, she wasn't even the one who broke it off with Nick originally. Like she was peer pressured into it by the women in the lounge to break it off. And then she's like, wait a minute. Like, if Leo's into somebody else, like Brittany, I need to get Nick back. And that was just
crazy.
Crazy. Like, why is she flip-flopping? And also, like, kind of putting so much importance in what other people say to her and letting that influence her decision.
I think that she should actually listen to the women. When the women say to her, like, that man is not the love of your life, like talking about Nick, I was like, why are you not listening to your other girlfriends?
Which I agree. Listen to the women over the man always, because the women are always right. But in this instance,
the men listening to our podcast are probably like, what do you mean? Look, we're two women here, okay?
Women's intuition is next level. And the only reason we can say that is because all those women have dated Nick. And they know. Mr. Suave. There's something off about that.
I'm telling you. Okay, we're not saying like women are better than men, even though we think so because we are women, but like, you know, we're just joking around. But you're right. Like, they dated Nick and they sensed like, oh, he's putting up a front.
Exactly.
Though once we get to Mexico, my feelings change on all of this, but
I was going to say that I didn't originally love Nick, but I think he grew on me the most.
I think the only reason Nick is growing on me when we get into Mexico, which we will after we talk about all the couples in the pods, is because of Hannah. Because I think Hannah is letting her insecurities get to her. So her behavior is kind of reflecting that.
Exactly. She's leading with emotion.
And so I'm starting to feel bad for Nick. But again, we'll get into it. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So there was a period in my life where I felt like I just couldn't be my full self, and I felt like I was hiding behind a mask at work, in social settings, around my family. I just felt like I was acting like a different person, and I was putting on a facade at times. And I think a lot of that came from not feeling confident in myself and maybe even insecure. And what I love about therapy is that it has helped me learn to accept all parts of myself. And it's October, and masks should only be for Halloween fun, not for our emotions.
So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge.
Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/outofthepods today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/outofthepods.
Let's get back to Leo because, wow, talk about a humble bragger.
Okay.
He's my worst nightmare when it comes to like a partner.
I wholeheartedly agree. At first I was like, okay, you know what? Let me give him a chance, because this is just the way he's grown up. When you're, you know, a rich kid, let me try to understand the background before I judge. But for somebody who is scared that he is going to get into a relationship with somebody who wants him for his money, he has said the word wealth and money and how much he like makes and how much he like is worth the most out of anybody I've ever met.
I know.
Like, I lost my mind by the amount of times he's like, well, I'm rich, I can take care of her, I'm rich, I'm
my
rich.
Rolex,
I'm an art dealer. Like, I first of all, bro, like, no one's bringing it up and no one cares if you went to Art Basel. Like, just like talk about other things that are not surface level.
Someone once told me that real rich people don't talk about how rich they are.
Exactly. So you know his money is new money. New money talks really loud.
Or he's a very insecure rich person, and that's all he feels like he has going for him because he's so insecure about everything else about himself. Which that's the feeling I get. Like, here's the thing. I know that probably him, Brittany, Hannah in these first sets of episodes are probably getting the most backlash based on their pod behavior. But I think a lot of their behaviors really do come from insecurity. It's not like, you know, because they're bad intentioned people.
No, I agree with you. I think that all of them are complex, but specifically Leo, I think, has used wealth as a crutch.
Yeah.
And you can tell that that's what he leans on and relies on in the pods as well, because he's like, okay, just in case somebody doesn't like me for my personality, let me just add in the fact that I have money. Which I do have to say, when Brittany heard that, I feel like her demeanor changed towards him a little bit and she was kind of more interested because she is looking for that lifestyle. And I honestly appreciated her honesty that she's like, I'm a trophy wife.
I did too, but I think that her like kind of like ditzy blonde stereotype is getting a little bit old. I do think she's kind of like playing into it a little bit. You know, I don't think I don't want to use the word dumb, but she is like kind of coming off like kind of like that airhead stereotype. And I don't think that's actually her.
Yeah, I have to say I was very, very surprised that she said yes to the proposal, because she wrote out this very heartfelt letter about how she felt so hurt and disappointed in the situation. And Leo just wrote this like silly little poem rhyming.
I know.
And she was like, yes. I was like, you didn't address any of the issues at hand and you just willingly said yes. Like, I don't know if they didn't air it, but I highly doubt that they didn't, because why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I don't feel like he doesn't give me the personality that he would have a very like thoughtful, considerate letter.
Okay.
You know?
I agree. Let's talk about the breakup between Leo and Hannah.
My mouth dropped.
I was so anxious, Natalie. It was so triggering because I was like, oh my God, this man is literally just like screaming at her.
Yeah, it was really bad. He definitely is a manipulator.
Yes.
It was really hard to watch. And I don't know. I think it was his desperation to just like feel wanted. Here's the thing that's very interesting in the pods, and we've talked about this. If you are a good conversationalist, if you portray yourself in a certain way, if you have a great tone of voice, you're going to thrive in these pods. And for some people, especially those who are insecure and have never felt wanted or haven't felt wanted very often, they're going to thrive in the pods when they have multiple connections.
Yes.
We've kind of seen this on our season, not like us particularly, and nothing that showed on the show. But when I think about, you know, some of the women who had multiple connections and they felt almost like powerful, you know, and they wanted to keep that and they felt so wanted because they never felt that in their life. And, you know, for the first time it's happening. And I feel like that was happening to Leo.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I have two women who
exactly
want me.
And it's a valid feeling to have because it does make you feel good about yourself and validated. But I think that's exactly why he freaked out so much, because I don't think he's ever used to getting an option taken away from him, which is why he felt so like compelled to freak out on Hannah and was like, what do you mean? Like, you pick somebody without talking to me? Like, I think it was him getting stripped away from the option that made him like just be outside of himself. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And then the way he turned on proposal day, where he talks to Hannah and is like, oh, well, I wanted to cancel this conversation anyways. Like, the gaslighting was insane, because he realizes that if things don't go well, like, obviously Brittany's not going to say yes, and like he's going to be going home alone. And oh boy, like,
yeah, no, he was crazy. I feel like
wild.
What was actually going through his head is Hannah was his number one, obviously. And he really wanted Hannah and was keeping Brittany as a second choice. He wanted to solidify himself into a position where regardless of what happens, like, he will get engaged and continue on in the show.
Exactly.
And I'm really glad producers didn't choose them to continue on. Even though, yes, for the drama and like the entertainment, they should have. But I do feel like if they would have been chosen to continue on, I think we would have all known like it was like going to be kind of like this fake relationship.
Yeah, like kind of a dead end maybe.
Yeah.
And also, like, we do have to say producers know what they're doing. Like, obviously they'll pick a juicy story and drama, but when someone's being like very fake, or like they know that it's not gonna work, or they just don't want to give them that chance, like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And plus, I do have to say, I died when Leo in the lounge with the men was like, I'm not trying to be an influencer, I have a lot of money.
I know. I was like, it actually seems like you're really trying to be an influencer. Why do you think they showed their storyline even though producers didn't choose them to continue on?
I do think that it was important to show them, because if they didn't show their side, then they couldn't really air Hannah and Nick's storyline. And this one was the juiciest one. There was another couple who had like a love triangle, but I don't think it was as interesting as this one. So I think it just added a lot of flavor.
But I feel like they could have shown Leo's connection with Hannah and also cutting Brittany out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like where it could have been like a triangle. My prediction is that they gave Leo and Brittany so much screen time because first, they're memorable characters. Like they fall into their stereotypes. Like the rich, insecure guy, she falls into the typical, I don't think she's a dumb blonde, but like that ditzy blonde stereotype. My prediction is that they showed them because they just say the craziest things. And so it would make a great social media moment. But also because Brittany is on Perfect Match season 3.
Oh,
that's just like my hypothesis.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where she goes. But I think you're right. Like both of them are very unapologetically themselves. Like they don't really care what other people think of them. They're like, oh, like I'm gonna be just very myself and say exactly what I'm looking for, and I don't care if people judge me for it. That's the vibe I get from them. So I was like, oh, how could they not air them? They're just so juicy characters.
I feel like the main couples who were chosen, like none of them would make a good like social media moment, like something that would go viral. But I feel like Leo and Brittany have personalities that would go viral and would bring like promotion for this show.
I completely agree with you. Yes. Like if they took out that couple, I think this season would tank a little.
Yeah, like especially the pods.
Yeah, you just need a little juiciness. But I can't believe that 4.5 episodes of this 6th season drop was all the pods. I was like, how long are we going to go with this?
Well, I feel like they did that for season 6. If my memory serves me right, I feel like most of the episodes in the first drop were in the pods. Because I remember making a comment being like, why are we still in the pods?
Yeah, it was so long. I was like, oh my God, we're on a journey. But
let's get into Garrett and Taylor.
Yeah, let's get into Garrett and Taylor. Oh boy, oh boy. I really like them as a couple, but there was definitely some red flags with Garrett, and I think we have to talk about it.
You know how you said you were on the edge of your seat?
Yes.
The one part of these pod episodes that put me on the edge of my seat in anger is the way Garrett reacted when Taylor wouldn't reveal her ethnicity.
I was so pissed at him.
I was like, are you okay?
I really liked Garrett, and I love Taylor. I like them together.
Same. Love Taylor.
But this moment actually like had my jaw on the floor because I was so pissed off. Because I totally understand where Taylor's coming from. This experience, I feel like, especially with your name, and I've gone through that, like having a name like DT, I can't really hide my ethnicity, but it was really frustrating because obviously when you're in a situation like that and you know someone's race, people automatically have this preconceived stereotype of who you are, where you come from, how you act.
Especially when you're non-white.
Exactly.
Because I had that for myself. I feel like I could relate to Taylor really closely because the first few days I kept my ethnicity a secret. I still spoke about how I faced racism, but in a more general way until I felt comfortable in revealing it to Shane. And Shane found out because I told him my last name. Yeah. And so once he was like, are you Asian? Like when I said my last name was Lee. And I was like, yeah. And then I spoke more because we were filming during COVID, and like during that time there was like a significant amount of racism pointed at East Asians. Yeah. And so I spoke about that a lot. I spoke about how I was also like called chink growing up and like made fun of because I would bring like Korean food for lunch to school. And so like all those things, how I struggled with, you know, my identity as a Korean American growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood. I'm going too deep into that, but I understand why Taylor didn't reveal that because I think that it's tough, especially when people also have like racial preferences when it comes to dating people, and you kind of want to take that out, especially if you're doing the experiment where like you want to see if like is my personality enough? Exactly.
And that's what her perspective was. And I'm glad she stayed calm in the moment. And that just speaks to her intelligence and her emotional state of mind. Like instead of getting angry about it, she's like, I understand, but let me tell you why. And I just loved her reasoning of being like, I want you to like me for my mind, my thoughtfulness, and just who I am as a person without the race being a factor.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved that because I also can relate to that. And I think the same situation as you, like growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood. Anyways, I won't get, like you said, we won't get into all of that, but it does make a difference. And people who are not in our position can't understand that. But I think you and I understand Taylor so much in this moment.
I agree.
I was very upset with Garrett for calling her calculated though, because I think that's just like a negative word to use. I think I understand.
I love the word calculated though.
No, I hate it because I'm like, that's just rude to me, because why couldn't he say like it's thoughtful or you're being mindful? Like the word calculated had a negative connotation to it, and that upset me so much because I was like, Garrett, this is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag.
But I don't understand the way he reacted. I feel like any normal person that's being told like, I'm not going to reveal my ethnicity / race to you in this experiment, the way he was like so bothered and annoyed by that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, Garrett, if race and ethnicity doesn't matter to you in this moment, then you'd be like, cool, that's fine. But instead he's like, I've only dated white girls and like, I think you're being calculating. It matters so much more to him than he let on. I bet he was so relieved to see that she's half white and half Asian.
I don't know, man. I do have to say, I do like them together, although this is a small red flags, and we're going to keep eyes on you, G. We're keeping eyes on you.
Yeah.
But I do really like them together, and I think their intelligence is going to be their like biggest connection. Their dry sense of humor, and they both like can joke like that. The only thing is like I do think both of them have extremely strong personalities, so it's going to be, I don't know, interesting to see how they interact in the real world.
Yes.
What I love about the seasons changing from summer to fall is, of course, cooler weather, but it also means that it's soup season, football season, apple orchards, and my favorite thing of all, slipping into a cozy sweater from Quince. Quince offers amazing high-quality items I absolutely love, keeping my style fashionable without going over the budget. Like, I'm obsessed with this cashmere sweater I got, and it's only around $50.
So the best part is that all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. So that includes beautiful leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim, and so much more. And by partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And you know I love a good deal.
So get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/outofthepods for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns.
That's QUINCE.com/outofthepods to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/outofthepods. I've received so many DMs saying that Taylor reminds people of me just based on her voice. Like the way that we speak so slowly on our respective seasons. And I like that. I don't care if that's calculating. I think being calculated in the way you speak is actually a really good thing because you never want to misspeak.
I agree with you. And I think
So, you know what, Taylor, if you're listening to that, that was a compliment, okay?
That's, I mean, true. But also, I think I just don't like the word calculated. And for me, I was also very mindful of how I spoke on the show. But I don't think that calculated should be the word used. I don't know.
No,
but anyways,
it's because he made it negative.
Exactly. The way the tone of voice and the context, I think that's why I was pissed off. But I do have to say, though, besides that, I really do like them as a couple. And I thought it was really cute how he sent the sunflowers and asked her to be his girlfriend in like the most like grade school type of way. Check this box.
It was cute. Their reveal, though, was not my favorite. I've seen comments from our pod besties being like, that was a really awkward reveal. Like, I don't think they're feeling each other. But I think it might just be their personalities. Not saying they're awkward, but I think they're not as like outwardly like loving. It wasn't like a magical reveal like I would say like Ramses and Marissa's or even Ashley and Tyler's.
Oh my gosh. Ashley and Tyler's reveal was so magical. Like you can feel the chemistry bursting through the screen. Like they are definitely getting married. They are this season's sweethearts. Like absolutely a couple.
Well, we'll see. I never know. There might be a surprise, but I do feel like they are just very much aligned. We'll just have to see what happens when they go back to DC. But not much to say about them. I mean, I just thought that they were super cute. They obviously are very mature and very connected. Same thing about Tim and Alex. I think in the pods, there's not really much to say about them.
I agree.
I don't really see their connection as much as I see like Ashley and Tyler's.
No, I agree. I think Ashley and Tyler are gonna go. I think they're definitely gonna get married. But Tim and Alex surprised me the most.
In terms of like them connecting?
Yeah, in terms of them connecting, And I also think that Alex is way different. And we'll get into it when we talk about the honeymoon stage. But I feel like Alex is way different than the person that she was in the pods in the real world. So, but anyways, we'll get into that. But in the pods, I think both couples were very unproblematic. I love Tim and his background and his adversity and his love for life. Yeah. Even though he lost both of his sisters, I thought that was absolutely beautiful.
No, it's so sad that he lost his sister to lupus. Like, I got really teary-eyed watching the scene where he is telling Alex that because, like, we have sisters. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine them leaving this world.
I know. And then him being like, what I'm really excited about is that my mom is going to get another daughter.
I know.
Stop. Like, I was like, stop it right now. I'm going to tearjerker. But yeah, I feel like those couples are not problematic whatsoever. They were just very chill.
Not at all. We'll get into Mexico, but not in the pods.
What about the other love triangle?
Ramses,
Bowden.
Marissa, and Bowden.
Yep. How did you feel?
Very tame. Like, Marissa rejecting Bowden, the way he reacted was so amazing.
Perfection. I do have to say Marissa is one of my favorite characters on the show. She's just so bubbly and like full of life. And even though she has this military background, which you would never expect, she is just like, I don't know. I just really love her personality. And I'm happy she picked Ramses because
I like Ramses a lot.
They're just a very unique couple.
I like that he kind of owns up to the fact that he's sensitive, he's emotional, he puts his feelings out there. I love men like that because I don't feel like we see that a lot on reality TV shows, in media in general, where like men kind of own that.
Exactly. I love how he was like, I'm going to define my own masculinity. But I think the best part about it is that Marissa's open to that. And she's like, I absolutely love that you're that way.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like rocking the stereotypes of gender norms. I think that's like,
I agree. I love how she
cool.
like says like, I don't think I want to be like, at home with the kids. Like, you could be the stay-at-home dad, or like, would you be open to that? So I do love that. I'm still indifferent about Marissa. I don't know, like something about her is preventing me from like really connecting with her as a character on this show. Obviously, I don't know her as a person, but something about her, I feel like she is a little bit immature.
Interesting.
And I think it's because she's so silly. So I don't want to like judge her and say she's like immature yet. She does give like a little bit of immature vibes to me. But it might just be her sense of humor and her just, like everyone's sleep deprived in the pods and her just, like kind of like joking around and keeping things light. One thing, going back to that love triangle, I also really loved how the fact that Ramses and Bowden find out that Marissa is their top choice. Yes. And just like the way they reacted, being like, oh, like, I don't blame you. We're both fantastic guys. Exactly. And Ramses is like, oh, like, yeah, I know, but I just want to focus on you. Very mature. But I will say what I really liked about the pod episodes here is how the producers are showing these scenes that people really do talk about matches.
Yes.
Like, it's not this hidden thing. It might be for the early days in the pods, but like the men do talk about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Openly.
I think they have such a beautiful friendship, and I think they will continue their friendship, but there's like no bad blood there. And I loved the way Marissa was like, yep, this is going to be it for me. Like, I'm sure she broke it off earlier than they kind of like portrayed in the show, but I really loved Bowden and her's connection too, but I think they were way too similar as
and
people.
It was very like platonic.
Exactly. So the romantic part wasn't there. And okay, I actually loved the reveal, Ramses and Marissa. I was like,
too.
oh, the chemistry is very much there.
Yeah. I like them a lot as a couple.
Yeah.
I am rooting for them, especially seeing them connect even more in Mexico.
Our last couple before we move on to Mexico, Steven and Monica. Honestly, this was the couple that was talking about political topics that they aired the most. And I'm surprised that they were compatible, but I think I can see it. I mean, no big notes on this.
They were very cute in the pods. One thing that I found very funny is remember when Steven was revealing to Monica that he emotionally cheated on his previous partner, and she goes, "I'm so sorry."
I noticed that and I was like, why are you sorry? He's the one that effed up.
And she's like, "You're being too hard on yourself." I was like, "No, you're not, Steven. You're not being too hard on yourself. You own that and feel bad about it, okay?"
We do love a self-aware king, but I was like, wait, what? I'm sorry. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, but I'm actually shocked that their reveal was as cute as it was going to be.
Really? Okay, you thought it was cute because why were they whispering so much? It was like ASMR. I love you so much. You are so sweet. I was like, what is happening? Why are you whispering?
Like, I don't know. Maybe they don't want the producers to hear it. Because, I mean, you guys don't know this are pod besties, but that reveal, it's just not the two of you.
Oh.
And it's not even the two of you and like two cameramen. There's 50 people of the production staff watching you. Like, so I don't blame them for whispering. They probably didn't want like the people hearing it.
No, they're the entire production team.
Because they're so
all
curious.
The producers from all couples is watching. And then afterwards they're like, you did amazing. I'm like, oh my God, I have red lipstick everywhere.
And I remember one of our handlers, like the ones that like took us place to place, she watched Shane and my reveal. And I saw her on the side of my eye and she's like jumping for joy and like laughing with people around her. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so awkward. Because I was like, are you laughing at us? Or are you like laughing in happiness? Like
the best part is when afterwards too, we would talk to the handlers and be like, okay, tell me, give me the tea on whose reveal was the most awkward. And they're like, I can't say, but I'm like, give me some hints, please.
Or I'd be like, what did you think of our reveal? And they're like, But yes, it's a very like I don't blame them for whispering. They're probably like, I don't want producers to hear what we're saying. You know, it's a little bit awkward. So that's some insider tea. There are literally like 50, 60, 70 people just watching you for 20 minutes.
I was dying though.
And just cameras like swirling around you all over. And you're just like,
I do have to say, the more seasons air, the prettier the sets get. Like,
you think? Yes,
I do think that you can see like all the candles, everything. They put a bench there. We never had a bench. I think some people from our season were sitting on the floor. Other people walked to the other side. They were standing the whole time.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah, there was never a bench there.
Probably took some feedback and they're like, we're putting a bench. Yes. All right. I know we skipped a lot in these pod episodes, but there was just too much to talk about. And I really want to go into Mexico. We just have to go into Mexico.
We have to. It's so good. Who thought that it was going to get better? But it kind of did.
Yes. I'm not going to lie. The pod episodes for me weren't as exciting. Like, I really just was watching for the Leo, Brittany, and Hannah scenes.
I agree.
But, wow, Mexico, the last episode specifically, I'm like, what's going on here?
The last 5 minutes specifically.
Yeah.
Before we get into all the Mexico drama, we are left with 6 couples. We hear that Leo and Brittany were not followed, obviously, and they went to Miami together and then
broke up.
Shocker. But we have Monica and Steven, Taylor and Garrett, Ashley, Tyler, Marissa, Ramses, Hannah, Nick, and Alex and Tim. I'm going to quiz you on these. Let's go.
I'm not going to lie. I still haven't gotten the names down. I think because there's a Tyler and a Taylor, and there's a Tim and an Ashley and an Alex.
There's like, a Marissa and a Monica.
There's just there's like too many similar sounding names in my head.
No, I agree. You know, I was going to make like a cheat sheet out of it and like clip all of their things. I was like, there's like 30 of them. I don't know who has the time for this.
And then Deep D keeps calling Hannah Chelsea.
What,
so now I'm like, is Chelsea on this cast?
You planted that seed at the beginning of the episode and I'm so upset about it.
I could see your lips too. You want to be like Chelsea, or you want to be like, but then you're like Hannah. Like your lips like flinch a little.
I know. I'm like, whoa. I know my head is like all over the place.
And why do people call Nick D? Is it because Nick Lachey?
There's another Nick on the show. There's two Nicks.
But someone who didn't get
yeah,
okay,
Nick
okay.
Dorca and Nick. I don't remember the other one. I'm not gonna lie. The Dorca is hilarious to me. We're gonna be Dorcas.
You know his full name. I forgot it.
Something Junior. Is there a Junior in there somewhere?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. But anyways.
Oh my God. The fact that Nick D has BD.
Honestly, he confuses the crap out of me. But I like his personality. I think it's very...
Let's just go into him.
Yeah, let's go into him.
Let's get into Hannah and Nick because this is, I think, where our opinion of Nick changes.
Very much. I hate to say this, but they're a train wreck as a couple.
That's putting it lightly.
Really? Because I thought I was being harsh. But I just think that they are very young souls who need more experience in relationships, especially Hannah. I don't know anything about Nick's like past dating history, but he also comes off very like unaware of his social surroundings and how to act in a relationship. Like, what did you think about the whole duck racing situation?
I think in that whole duck racing situation, Nick did nothing wrong. I think Hannah overreacted to the situation. I was really shocked that she was so bothered that an older woman wanted to race him. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that she took the comment that older woman made where she was like, hey, don't be jealous or something
She's
like
jealous,
that. Yeah. And she was so offended by that. And she over-exaggerates that situation to Marissa during the couples meetup.
I heard.
She tells Marissa that the woman said like, oh, your girl's such a jealous bitch. When that did not happen. Like the woman just said like, oh, don't be jealous. Like very jokingly too.
Yeah. She's like, oh, she's jealous. Don't be jealous.
Yeah. It's like no one would take that serious. It was so harmless.
But that just goes to show you how she perceived that situation versus the reality of it. Like she's leading so much with insecurity and like emotion.
It was just, and then also when Nick was going on the duck and she goes like, like she's just acting like she's too cool for that. I was like, Hannah, like, if anything, you're acting crazy right now.
Okay. I don't know if you've watched Nobody Wants This Yet.
No, I haven't.
But they have a scene in there where they talk about icks and how men who give them the ick, it is the hardest thing in the entire world to reverse an ick.
That's what Monica says.
And I kind of understand it because once you see something and it is a complete ick to you, that man changes in your eyes and you're like, I just can't look past it.
I think that's hard.
That can be a thing.
No, I don't believe in that if you truly love someone. I think if you're so deep in a relationship, feelings, I get it in like the first, like the superficial stages of dating. But I don't think if you truly love someone and start loving them for who they are, it's really hard for you to get an ick.
But this is only day 2 or 3 of them being physically together. So it's still very fresh and new in a lot of ways.
Let me tell you.
I'm just saying, I personally do not get off-put like by icks and shit. Yeah. But I do understand when women say that sometimes because you just are like, I just can't see you.
I just think it was stupid. I didn't like her. I didn't find her like her saying like acting like she's too cool for it like funny.
No, I agree with you.
Like, that sort of shit's like hurtful.
No, I think that's why my opinion of Hannah kind of starts to shift and I tend to like lean to side with Nick more on situations because I don't think he did anything wrong. He was just having fun and like being his bubbly self.
Totally. And then can we talk about the note he found?
Okay, this is where you can see the immaturity because you know she left out that note on purpose.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Although there is some things on there that I was like, whoa.
I was like,
true.
It's not wrong. But it was so immature because she also brings up things like, like we need to communicate. And I was like, why didn't you communicate any of that on that note to him before he found it?
Exactly. This is the hypocritical behavior that you see from Hannah. Like she wants to be one thing, but she acts completely different.
Yeah.
So that's where the disconnect is for me.
There's nothing wrong with writing down how you feel about your partner I've written things in the notes app on my phone about previous partners just to like organize my thoughts, make sure like what I'm thinking is it's not crazy, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I was like, I totally get it. But you're right in that like you wrote it down on a piece of paper and left it out in a hotel room that you're sharing with your partner.
Exactly what you said. It is one thing to organize your thoughts and make sure that you speak to somebody in a clear, concise way. But her intention was to kind of point out the faults in him.
Also, the things that she wrote were stupid, like delusional.
Delulu specifically, question mark.
Yeah, like what? I don't
Self-awareness, question mark.
I just
Yeah, no, that was a little childish.
If you're gonna write like 10 things that you're questioning about your partner, I feel like delusional is like the least helpful.
Completely agree. And also, it was interesting that Nick didn't want to talk about sex on the show, but then she talks to Marissa about it and was like, we had sex. And whispers it to
like
him.
knows like her mic's picking that up.
But then Nick was like, it's fine if you talk about it. So she like got the okay, but it was like an interesting like breach of trust, but then it was okay. You know what I mean?
I can't say anything because obviously I talked about this in one of our previous episodes where I wanted Shane not to talk about sex. I was like, I just don't want it. It's not really acceptable in the Korean community. And I was like, I don't want to embarrass my family.
Yeah.
And yet he did it behind my back anyways. And it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I get the way Nick feels. And I hate that Hannah still talked about it because I know how that feels like.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it at, in my situation, I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
The thing about Nick though, I think you're totally right where he's also immature. Like he makes those comments like, are your lips done up? Like I like natural women. Just like things that are so kind of like silly and immature to say.
And I think, we talked about this earlier in the episode. I think it's just like it's a wall. It's like a defensive, not a defensive wall, but like a way to protect himself because he does feel a little bit insecure. So he makes like certain jokes and acts a certain way or like portrays this charisma when we kind of see those walls come down towards the end of the pods, and that's why I started to like him so much. But they're back up again.
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah. Well, I feel like she's being really judgy towards him. So I'm not shocked they're back up. I just feel like if I found a note like that about me, I'd be like, well, actually, I would leave the relationship. I'd be like, clearly you don't respect me and you have a lot of critiques about me that can't be fixed. Like, I'm out. That would be, but I do feel like with Hannah now, because she acts overly critical of Nick, like I don't see how he could be himself.
And then, but on the other hand, is always like, oh my gosh, I love you so much, like constantly saying it. But Garrett had it spot on, and he was like, well, if she wrote all of that about one incident, that means that she has way more going through in the back of her mind that is just now coming to the surface. And I was like, nailed it.
Yeah.
Gee, you smarty.
Speaking about critical partners, can we get into Steven and Monica?
Oh my God. Bro, what was that?
No, for real.
At the end of the couple meetup, Monica and Steven are talking.
Yeah.
And she cuts him off. And it's like, you never let me get a word in, basically. And I was like, whoa. That, I don't know. I just sense a lot of bossy energy when it comes to Monica. And Steven seems like such a teddy bear that he's just like, I love you. I'll do whatever for you.
Yeah.
Kind of
vibe. That was kind of sad when it happened. Like I felt bad for Steven because I'm sure it's embarrassing the fact that they're filming and she said that and kind of like freaked out at him. And he was like so happy just like debriefing about the couples and talking about how like everyone, like liked them and the way she just like cut him off and just said, like, can you let me speak? Obviously, it's something that's happened before because he goes, oh, I'm being chatty again. So I was like, oh, they must have had a conversation about this. Yeah. And she's clearly frustrated.
Because he mentioned it at the couple meetup and was like, yeah, like, one time we were talking, she asked me a question, but I talked like 10 minutes about it and didn't answer the question. And she was like a little frustrated. So I think it's like they're getting to know each other and he's like full of energy and talking a lot and needed to, I don't know, like what do you do in that dynamic though? Because if he is being like too chatty, like how do you,
because I would get frustrated
that?
too.
Me too. That's what I was gonna say. I would get very frustrated. I'd be like, can I please just like have a thought as well?
Yeah. Like, can you just like please stop talking and like also
let me hold the space is what she said.
Okay, and now I'm backtracking. If I was Monica, I'd be really annoyed if I had a partner who was that talkative because I also love sharing my thoughts and opinions, and I love having that back and forth conversation. I think that's why you and I get along, is because we like bouncing back.
Exactly.
Like I love that type of conversation where it's like, boom, one, you just, you know, like.
Yeah, because if someone talks too long, you have a reactive thought to that. But then if you keep continuing on for 2-3 more minutes longer, that thought goes away and it's no longer relevant. You know what I mean? Like, so I understand her frustration.
So I get Monica because I'd be annoyed too. I think I just felt bad for Steven because he's such a teddy bear. And that's the first time we saw Monica kind of like address it.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Like, I know Monica is getting a little bit of backlash, and I'm just assuming just based on the DMs we've received from Pod Besties being like, what the hell, Monica? But I kind of understand her frustration.
Obviously, it's probably the edit, the way they're kind of making her look very like stern with things.
Or it might not be.
Yeah, but the crazy part is they then followed up with her asking Steven to do a lot of things for her, like specifically like, hey, Steven, can you bring me my blanket? Steven, can you bring me those shoes or the slippers? Yeah. And he just like does it so sweetly, which listen, you do you, queen. Like, I think it's lovely to have that type of support, but all of that added up together is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's where I felt bad for Steven because I was like, oh, he doesn't mean to like not. He doesn't mean to talk so long. I think he just gets so excited to like share and talk. So I get her side, but I also feel bad for him because it was like a harsh way to kind of like cut him off. And again, I'm sure he feels embarrassed because there's a whole film crew there. It sucks to like what do you do in that convo?
You could see his face just change. He's like, okay, I'm just not gonna spell.
And that reminded me when Ramses and Marissa are debriefing on all the couples after the couples meet up, and Ramses questions if Monica and Steven will stay together.
Yeah, because I'm sure he sees the dynamic of the couple. Also, one being friends with Steven, but like seeing it from an outside perspective, being like, I don't know, you're being a little too cutesy.
Yeah, and I'm sure he sees more than the viewer's seen and what's, edited for the show, right? Like they're there in real life at this probably 2, 3, 4 hour couples meetup.
Yeah.
If it's similar to how long ours was. So yeah, it just made me see like maybe there are more issues with them than we are seeing.
And also I do want to say like the couples meetup they were having a lot of fun. Like the girls were like very supportive of each other. Like it was a lot of fun, but I do want to note like they were drinking a ton of alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Which kind of leads me to the situation that happened with Tim and Alex. I wasn't sure why Marissa was questioning that because I was like, they seemed fine. But then obviously the next morning they debrief about what happened the night before and this big argument that they got into.
Yeah.
Was that surprising to you?
It was. You're totally right too. Like when Marissa said like, oh, like probably Tim and Alex are going to make it like 80%. Yeah. No one was surprised when they said, 75% Nick and Hannah. But when Marissa said Tim and Alex have like an 80% chance of making it, I was like, where did that come from? But now it makes sense.
Yeah, they were kind of setting it up for us.
Yes. This sounded like a very, very toxic fight. We received a lot of DMs about this being like, how come they never showed the fight?
Yeah.
We don't film 24/7 in Mexico. They definitely set up the scenes. And if there were hidden cameras in the hotel rooms, I have never seen Love is Blind show hidden camera footage.
Yeah. And also it sounds like from them like detailing the story that it was happening on the walk back to their rooms, which I don't think that they're filming. Like there's probably producers that are walking with them, but like
we
they're
didn't
not
have producers walking with us back to our hotel room after the couples meetup. I remember that very distinctly about Shane and I. We walked back together.
We had somebody walk back with us because they golf carted us.
Oh, you guys were so far.
Yeah,
Shane
we were far.
and I were really close to the couples meetup location. And I remember it was just him and I because he carried me back and we were like being funny and we were like, should we like dip into a pool? Should we like go back to our hotel room or should we go to the beach? Like it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what happened here is like no cameras, no producers. this fight happened.
Every time after the couple meet up, like they're done. They're like, okay, shut down.
Shut down. You know, unionized camera crew. Like they can only work a certain amount of hours.
Yeah. And honestly, I was surprised that this incident happened literally 2 days into them being together in Mexico.
Yeah.
But it did not surprise me that there was a conflict, because if you recall, Alex had mentioned that she has a bad temper, and it took me back to the state of mind we were in after couples meetup. We're just throwing back shots, drinking so much, and I feel like alcohol was a really big factor in their fight.
Yes. If I were to be a betting woman, I would bet alcohol played a big role, but I still think that's a huge red flag.
I agree. I think the disrespect of her like covering his mouth was not okay.
Yeah, when she said that, and she said it like, I covered your mouth as a way to control you, I was like, end this relationship. Sorry. You don't do that to someone.
I totally respect him for coming into the room being like, hey, like I wholeheartedly thought this was going to be our last conversation, but he still hangs on. But I don't think that he should, because it's just not going to be a first time occurrence. Like,
it sounds just very unhealthy. I don't know what to say about it. The lack of communication, the fact she's like, you know, I should have communicated more that I just wanted to go home.
Mm-hmm.
But also the fact that she took out her emotions on him.
Yes. Verbally and physically.
I think the way Tim communicated his actions, how he felt the night of their fight, and also how he's feeling now, was very mature.
I agree. I think he set such healthy boundaries and was like, I will not be called out of my name, and that does not fly with me. And I just think of Tim, and he's like this distinguished gentleman, even just his tone of voice and the way he is. I'm just very proud of him for doing that. Like, I think it takes a lot of strength to be like, I will not accept this.
No, I 100% agree. I know I've mentioned also throughout this episode, like, I would leave. But then, you know, sometimes I forget, like, they are filming a show, and it's hard to leave if it doesn't make sense for the storyline. And then, you know, additionally, sometimes there is that pressure to continue going, right?
Yeah. And plus, you're literally in Cabo. You're not in the States, you know? Yeah. It's just a little different. But I think the downfall of this couple is that they both push each other's buttons so much in an annoying way. It's not in a playful way anymore. And like, you want to be able to have fun with your partner. And
I do feel like he pushes her buttons.
He does. Yes. And like, she hates when he does certain things, but he continues to do it because he's like, I just want to have fun. But it's like actually irritating her.
Yeah.
And
it's just like, they're very incompatible, but beyond that, they are on different wavelengths when it comes to like communication.
100%.
The way they communicate with each other. And then I think this conflict just shows like it's very toxic and very unhealthy. And I feel like if you are fighting so early in your relationship like that, I don't know. I feel like it's a done deal.
I agree. Dude, I don't know. This is going to be an interesting couple to see what happens. Well, we have one more couple. We have Ashley and Tyler.
I forgot about them, but I thought you were about to say Taylor and Garrett.
Oh, well, okay. The reason we forgot about them is because they're kind of unproblematic. And these are, well, which is kind of lovely because these are also the two couples I'm rooting for that I want to get married and that hope they do.
I'm rooting for Ashley and Tim.
No.
Ashley and Tyler.
Ashley and Tyler, for sure. They are getting married, hands down.
I don't know if I'm rooting for
Garrett and
Taylor. It's crazy because Taylor's actually my favorite, but because I said Tyler, I was like, did I just mention her name? Like I'm getting
there's
myself
so many
confused.
names.
Yeah. Like there's a T somewhere. Even Tyler and Tim. I was like, you have 2 T names?
2 M names? Like it's just so confusing.
The only reason I'm not rooting for Garrett and Taylor quite yet is because of the trailer.
I know that trailer was kind of wild, like something about his texting his ex-girlfriend and she was crying.
Yeah. And then she cries some more in another scene. And I'm just like, I just feel like if you have 2 scenes of yourself crying like that, there's some shit about to go down, okay?
But we know that the editors and producers of Love is Blind are notorious for making really good trailers that really amounts to nothing when we watch the episodes.
True.
So I'm like hoping that this is the case for Garrett and Taylor. I just want Taylor to be happy because she is like a phenomenal person.
Oh, I love her.
Like so far of what I've seen, she's just like funny. She does remind me of you, actually.
I feel like she's is a 30 times better version of me, and I am the Walmart version of her. And you know what? I'm okay with it. Like,
listen, comparison is the thief of joy, so don't do that shit.
It gives me joy that when I received a DM that they're like, Taylor reminds me of you, I was like, oh, you have made my entire life. No, I love her.
Yeah, no, I really, really love her. And I don't know, like besides the one red flag with G, I actually really like him. I think he's thoughtful, and I think, you know, I don't know. I like him for her because he's just so intelligent, you know.
We'll just have to see. I do think that they're married. This isn't a spoiler alert or anything. This is just like my thoughts. But I find it interesting that Garrett follows Kwame and Brett from Love is Blind season 4, both who are married. And I was like, I wonder if he reached out to them. And I feel like it's typical when people who were married on their season reach out to married people from the previous season for advice. Just like the fact that the people who DM us from like current seasons are like the single people.
Yeah. Like he's kind of looking up to them, or like
or he wants their advice, like, you know, how do we portray ourselves as a couple after the show, things like that. So
if that is the case, I am a happy girl because I like them together. I mean, together they're gonna
we'll just see. You know what? I'm not gonna make any big assumptions.
The only big assumption I want to make is I hope and pray that Tyler and Ashley are married. And I think they will be.
I do too. Let's see. It's hard to say. We've got 3 more weeks of episodes. So.
I think the rest of the couples are doomed. That's my prediction. I don't think any of the other couples.
Wait, including Taylor and...
No, I think Taylor and Garrett plus Tyler and Ashley, I think are going to make it. Marissa and Ramses, I'm on the fence about.
Same.
Because I feel like there's more to come.
I actually think there's a huge chance they might make it, but I don't know. Like, we'll see. It looks like Bowden's going to come back.
Oh, yes.
So I'm just like, we'll just have to see what happens with that.
Yeah. Because, I think I got the sense that from the trailer, Marissa does have a lot of energy and she's very like bubbly, flirty. And Ramses is very like chill. Yeah. I remember that's kind of an issue. Like, will they match their energy? Will it be too much? So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious. Well, I have no hope for Nick and Hannah. And no hope for Tim and Alex, which I feel like is the general consensus here.
Yeah, I think they've laid it out pretty well for us. Yeah. And what about Steven and Monica? Do you think that they're going to go far?
No.
Yeah.
I really like them individually, though. But I feel like together, it's like the power is... She's going to hold the power in the relationship if they end up together. And sometimes I don't feel like that's always fair when the power, there's too much power imbalance in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it's just not healthy.
We'll see. I mean, I haven't really built up my favorites beyond Taylor. But again, we're really just getting introduced to these couples. So I'm excited for the episodes that come out this Wednesday. I think 3 episodes drop. So it's going to be an easier watch.
Oh, thank God.
But I hope that there's a little bit more, juicy drama that happens. We'll see.
I'm very curious to see who else they bring back besides Bowden, because I kind of would love to see Leo. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, with that, let us know what you thought about these first 6 episodes. You can comment on our YouTube videos, any of our reels on Instagram or TikTok, and of course, DM us on Out of the Pods.
And make sure you guys leave a review and subscribe.
See you next Monday.
Bye.